everyone, I hope y'all are having a great day, and today I'll be reviewing The Raven King by Maggie Stiefvater, the last book in the Raven Cycle Quartet. Like I said, it's the last book in the series, so I feel like if you clicked on this video, you most likely have read these books, but if that's not the case, if you haven't read any of the Raven Cycle books, then please allow me to tell you a thing. This is the thing. The Raven Cycle is exceptional. It's one of the best series YA has to offer. It's beautiful and it's thoughtful, and this may sound a little weird, but it's for people who truly like reading. Now let me explain, because like I said, that's a weird thing to say to a booktube audience, right? But trust me. Why do we like to read? We read for so many reasons, but for me personally, the ones that resonate the most with me are escapism. You know, that weightless, lovely feeling of being able to travel to a different world and meet different people and go on their adventures with them. And heart. I love when books have a lot of heart. When characters feel so real and I feel so connected to them that they exist not only within the pages of their books, but also within me. That's why I love to read, and if that sounds like you, I highly, highly recommend this series. Admittedly, it's not for everyone. If you're a reader who reads for the thrill of a crazy plot, then maybe this series isn't the best choice. And if you get easily irritated when the plot is moving slowly, which I admit is sometimes me, then again, maybe not the best choice. But if you love the feeling of falling in love with characters and having them invade your mind space in the most welcome way, then there aren't that many books that do that better than these do. Maggie Stiefvater is really great at what she does, and the characters that she creates in this series are so remarkable. Maybe you haven't read these books and you're just curious as to whether the end of the series is satisfactory. I'm happy to say that this book is everything it needed to be and everything readers wanted. It might have been a little predictable, but like what Maggie says about the series, it's really not about what happens, but how it happens. How do these things unfold? How do these characters' relationships develop along the way? How do things come together or fall apart? That's what's actually important. Now, if you haven't read this series, I'm gonna ask you to leave because I don't want to spoil you. If you have even the slightest interest in starting the series, I really cannot recommend it enough, and I hope that you read all 4 of the books because they're all fantastic. But yeah, until you read all 4 of the books, I'm gonna have to bid you adieu because spoilers start in 3, 2, 1. Bye-bye. Alright, so before we begin, I'm just going to lay a disclaimer and say that I didn't take notes while reading any of these books, I don't think. So if you're looking for a review or a discussion that is gonna connect all the dots that Maggie left throughout all of the books, like, remember when she said this line on page 74 of book 1 and then it came true on page 370 of book 4, that's not this video. I'm not that meticulous. I'm sorry, I'm lazy. But anyway, we all knew that Gansey was going to die, and I think we all knew that the cause of his death was going to be a kiss from Blue. But here's what I did not know. Ronan had dreamed Cabe's water. The sleeper that stupid Piper stupidly woke up at the end of Blue Lily Lily Blue was a demon! A demon that was out to destroy my favorite character, the apple of my eye. I don't think I've ever used the idiom apple of my eye before. Does anyone ever? I'm at a loss for words for this book, really. I've never been good at reviewing conclusions. I think they're the hardest books to review. I'm gonna start with the things that I didn't like as much. The lack of Noah. I think I've said this in one of my previous reviews, but I love Noah, and I'm sad that we don't get to see as much of him as we get to see of the other Raven boys. Like, we don't get to know his backstory or his personality as well as we do with the other boys. And I expressed hope that maybe one day, eventually in a future book, we would get to see more of Noah, but unfortunately, The Raven King was not that book. He's hardly even in this book, which makes me sad because he's one of the original Raven boys from book 1, but he's not really anymore, and I feel like the other boys rarely ever miss him, and most of the time it feels like they're more creeped out by his company than appreciative of it, and I feel so bad for him because they were all such good friends in the beginning. The Raven boys and Blue were like an OT5, and now not anymore. Now it's Pinch and then a new OT3 with Gansey, Blue, and Henry Chang, which leads me to Henry Chang. Although I never reviewed Blue Lily Lily Blue, the one thing that I remember from that book was that Henry Chang's last name was Chang, and Chang was not a Korean last name, and Henry Chang was supposedly Korean, and I was like, what's going on here? That was addressed in this book, and I don't know if it was because someone was like, hey Maggie, Chang is not a Korean last name, or if she already knew and she had been planning it, but like that's a weird thing to plan a book in advance and then reveal later in like negligible dialogue. I don't really understand. But anyway, sorry for that tangent. Henry Chang, I like him. I don't have anything against him. I think he's a funny and enjoyable person, but I don't like how Maggie made him such an integral part of their friendship so late into the series. My favorite thing about these books is the friendship and the relationships that already start off so great, but over the course of the series develop into these unparalleled masterpieces. And with Henry joining the crew so late, we don't really get to see that with him. We're told that Gansey feels so comfortable with him and that he feels with Henry what he feels with Ronan and with Adam, but we don't get to experience that like we've got to experience that with Ronan and with Adam. So having him only become so important at the end is kind of like a disservice to his character. Next, the plot line about the whole magical item market and all the different buyers, like with Henry's mom and La Monnier. This one isn't much of a critical criticism, more of a personal opinion, but the storyline didn't really interest me. It was just that anytime we were in the perspective of someone other than one of the teenagers, I didn't really care that much. I'm already not that invested in the overall plot of this series about the quest to find Glendower, so anything beyond that is a bit of a stretch to hold my interest. But yeah, that's it. Those are the only things that I didn't really like. There were so many things I did like. Maggie Stiefvater did a really great job on wrapping up this series. I really love the scenes she gave us with Declan and Matthew. Declan is not a bad guy, and he never was, and I like that Ronan really, truly deep down loves him, because that's how siblings are. You think you hate them, and you say that you would kill them if you were given the chance, but at the end of the day, you know you love them, and that's just a fact of life. Hands down, my absolute favorite part of this book, as you can probably guess, was Pinch. Ronan Lynch and Adam Parrish's relationship was just A+. And I love Bluesy too, but compared to Pinch, they are just not as exciting. And I'm sure a major contributor to that opinion of mine is that Ronan is my favorite character in the series, and anything that makes him happy makes me happy. Their kiss in Ronan's bedroom was just, it was so perfect. I have never been happier to see a bitch die than when Piper got shot. That girl, Becky with the good hair, needed to get dragged to the pits of hell where she belongs. She was so irritating. Demon, do as I say, do as I say. Oh my god, shut her up, kill her. Oh yeah, I guess I should mention the fact that Blue is like a half tree light person, which was very strange and very interesting, and I don't truly understand what all that entails. I also don't truly understand that paragraph that Maggie put in about when Gansey and Blue kiss, about how they're both mirrors and the weaker mirror has to give in. Had I had enough emotions left in me at that point to feel anything other than despair and heartbreak, then I probably would have been very confused. Like I mentioned before, I love Noah, and I'm sad that his presence was so sparse in this book, but the final scene with him in it, of him talking to Gansey as he was dying as Glendower, made me cry so much. When Noah says, "Goodbye, don't throw it away," I died. I burst into tears. I was a mess. Maggie's characterization is always on point, but I feel like in this book she especially used it to highlight Gansey's character. We get to peek deeper into his mind than we have in previous books, and Maggie gives Gansey such a believable vulnerability when Gansey is afraid of dying. He's not ready to die because he has so much to live for, and even though he knows that he has to be a martyr, it doesn't make him any less terrified. And that resonated with me because Gansey is basically my age, right? And to die at this age when we've barely even lived at all is such a horrifying thought. Like, you've only just begun living and now you have to give your life up. Of course, his death is not forever. I don't think I ever thought that his death would be forever. I knew that he was going to be saved in some way, although I never would have guessed that it would be by Cabeswater sacrificing itself. I'm curious as to what the implications are of having a body made by Cabeswater, something made by something magical and sentient and evolving, because Cabeswater is not always a forest. It's like what is it? It's dream stuff, but like, what does that even mean? There's still so many questions about Cave's-Water, and these questions that I still have don't exist because Maggie was lazy about her world building. They exist because what she created was so curious and fascinating. So I probably forgot to mention like a million things, but I think I'm gonna wrap this up now. The Raven King was a solid conclusion. It gave me nearly everything I wanted and left me beyond satisfied. All the characters ended this book in a far better place in their lives and far better condition than they were in at the beginning of this book, and that makes me a happy reader. Let me know your thoughts on the Raven King, or tell me your favorite scene in the comments. I would love to know. As always, thanks so much for watching. I hope y'all have a fantastic day and happy reading. Goodbye!